Hey everybody, this is a companion video to my Medium blog post. I've given links to my Medium blog post in the description below. So in this tutorial, I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough on how to get started with Genie all for free using Databricks' free edition. If you don't have one, it's very easy to create. I've added links to that as well in the description below. So there are going to be 5 parts to this video. First part is that we are going to understand the data set. Second is going to be all about creating a brand new Genie space. The third part is running some SQL queries to make sure that Genie understands what kind of data set we're playing with and what our expectation is from the kind of insights that we want from the data set. The fourth part is all about testing and giving feedback to Genie. And the final piece is sharing our Genie workspace with others. With that context set, we'll dive right into our tutorial here. So the first thing we will do is we will go to the Genie space. So you'll have to navigate to the SQL menu here, and under SQL you'll click on Genie. So here you will click on new. The first thing you'll have to do is to connect Genie to your data. When you click on all, you will see all available catalogs in your workspace. And the awesome thing about this free edition is that Databricks has created this catalog called samples, and within that catalog you have many different schemas available, and within each schema you have relevant tables. So for this tutorial I chose a very simple example that was already provided by Databricks called NYC Taxi, and it has just only one table called trips. We're going to click on that and you're going to see that little check mark appear, which kind of confirms that Genie is going to take into account the samples catalog, NYC Taxi schema, and within that schema this particular table called trips. That's super easy to connect your data to Genie. So now I'm going to click on create. So the SQL warehouse, it was smart enough. It started by itself. It's starting, so please wait a moment. And now our SQL warehouse serverless is running. So we have those two things met. The first thing is taking care of the data connection. The second thing is having a SQL warehouse running to make sure that we're able to execute all our text to SQL requests. Focus now on the space to the right here. You see data and you see instructions, and then you have settings as well. So we'll start with settings and we'll give a space to our name. Let's call it NYC, and we can give it a description as well. This space will answer all your taxi ride questions, and we will save our space. So that's done. Now we will move on to the data tab, and let's have a look at all the different columns in a table. So we have something called pickup date time, and we have drop off date time, trip distance, fare amount, pickup zip location, and drop off zip locations. The cool thing is if you just hover over those example values, right, you're gonna see some examples from each of those column names, so you can get a feel of what exact data value you can expect from this table. Another way is also go to catalog and revisit the samples catalog and the NYC taxi schema, and here in trips you can look at sample data. This is a nicer view of everything laid out side by side. That's a gist of what our table structure looks like. With that understanding, we'll go back to Genie space, and here is our dashboard. Now let's start adding some questions which we will want to pre-populate to our users. So one of the questions that we can add is, give me the total count of entries in this data set, and we can add that question. And in instructions, you have different kinds of instructions that you can give to Genie. For example, you can give instructions like this table has information about taxi rides in and around NYC. Thanks Databricks for reminding me that I didn't save it. So I'll save the tiny bit of instructions that I gave it. Now I'll go on to joins. Is again when you want to define relationships between different tables and how they can be joined together, which will be more relevant when we have many tables within our schema. But in our example, I wanted to keep it simple, so we have just one table in our schema, so we're going to skip over joins. Go to SQL queries, and here again we can create sample SQL queries so that Genie can have something to improve its answers. So one of the things we can do is we can count trips by month, and for that I will give Genie this code by adding count trips by month. I'll call it trip count. I can also preview what this does. So this is similar to few short prompting. So you give some examples for Genie to pick up on. We can give it different examples, like what are the 5 longest trips, right? I'll give another example. Let me preview to make sure that it's fetching the right details. So these are the 5 longest trips. They're all from these different zip codes, and it also gives the start, the pickup zip code and the drop off zip code. So that looks good to me. I'm gonna call this top 5 longest trips. I'm gonna save it. So that's how you do this whole few shot prompting for Genie. Once we do that, we will now need to test it out and give real for Genie. So let's start with the simplest one here. Explain the data. So there's one available table which is samples NYC Taxi .trips. So the way Databricks names its data assets are as follows. So it starts with the catalog name, so that's samples, and then it moves on to the schema name, which is NYC Taxi here, and finally it gives the name of that exact data asset, which is the table name called trips here. That's why you see that samples.nyctaxi.trips, which stands for catalog.schema.table name. So that table about taxi ride, so this table contains information about taxi rides in and around NYC, including columns for pickup, drop off, timestamps, and there's no explicit connection or relationship to other tables, which is good. So now here's the real important thing. You'll have to make sure that you give it some feedback. So I'm going to say, yes, that's a good response. Now we'll test it out with a few more questions, like what are the total number of rows in this data set. It says 21,932, which is correct, but to further verify and validate, I'll look at the code as well. Select count star value from my exact table name, which is samples.nyctaxi.trips. Good. So I'm gonna rate it and I will give it as yes. We'll do one more test here. Give me the earliest and latest trips made. thinking. Here again, it gave me the right answer, and this was the code snippet it used. Once again, I have the option to either add this as an instruction. If this was a complex query and it did exceptionally well, then I'd love to add it as an instruction, and it would automatically get added to the instructions tab here. However, if I don't want it, I can just cancel it. And here I can also say, yes, this was a correct answer. So that's how you would test and give feedback. Another thing you can do here is to go to monitoring tab. So under monitoring tab, you will see an analysis of all the chat history that we've had with Genie. And the thing about this monitoring piece is you can go and revisit the ratings, and based on the ratings, you can give refined instructions to your Genie so that it performs even well as and when more interactions happen. That's a quick rundown. When you are satisfied with how your Genie workspace works, you can now share it to others in your organization by clicking on that share button, and this is where you can add users, groups, or different service principals. That was a quick rundown of how Genie spaces work in Databricks. Hope you learned something new, and I will see you again in another tutorial. Bye.